Hello and welcome. I'm Paul Myers, Executive Editor for the Sun-Gazette. I'm here joined with my publisher, Reggie Ellis. And today we're going to be having a conversation with City Manager for Tulare, Marc Mondell. So that way we can talk about the partnership between the City of Tulare and Spade Entertainment. Joining us as well is Todd Speelman, CEO of Spade Entertainment. So I'll start off with Marc. Go ahead and give me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for this conversation. My name is Marc Mondell. I'm the City of Tulare City Manager. I've been here 3.5 years. I have about 25 years experience in city management work. I was the former Assistant City Manager in Rockland and before that Ocala, Florida. I have a couple master's degrees and I have a couple certifications for my credentials.
Very nice. Todd, do you want to tell me a little bit about yourself?
Great. I'm Todd Speelman, lead producer and co-owner of Spade Entertainment, along with my wife, Claudia Speelman. And I have about 15 years in the event business and concert business. My background's in radio, about 25 years in radio, where I came with a knack of doing events, and we started up in Sacramento, and we do about 30 to 50 shows a year and other type events. And we've been in Tulare since the new venue opened.
Well, part of the reason why we're having this conversation is because of the unique type of situation that we're in with Tulare and Spade Entertainment. Not a lot of cities do this type of partnership with a park such as Zumwalt Park or an amphitheater as nice as what you guys have. So a lot of folks are wondering, how are the city's finances? How do you afford something like this, given the fact that this isn't something particularly usual among cities?
Great question. So I'll talk first about the city's finances, and then I'll work into how we afford this or how we do this. So the city is we're about a 72,000 population. Our budget's about $225 million. We've got about 500 full-time equivalent employees. Our general fund budget, which is general funds made up of property taxes, sales tax, and UUT revenue, is about $60 million a year. I would say that the city's in strong financial position. We're able to pay all of our bills. We have different funds, and all of those funds, or most of those funds, have different reserve policies associated with them. So we meet or exceed all of our reserve fund policies. And in addition to that, so for example, our general fund, we've got about $10 million in reserve funds. And in addition to that, we have an additional $10 million surplus funds on top of that. So think of that as our savings account. That's all great news. I think one of the challenges, though, that the city faces is that we have a lot of deferred maintenance that we're not able to afford in terms of keeping up with it. So for example, our roads, when you drive around the city, we have a number of roads that you look at that you could tell need to be repaired. And we have three primary sources of funding for those. We have SB1 revenue from the state, gas tax revenue from the state, and Measure R revenue from local sales tax. Those dollars typically go into road maintenance. Some of those dollars can go into new roads, road improvements. Those dollars alone are not enough to cover all of those costs. For example, just doing one subdivision, let's figure 100 to 200 home subdivision, to redo that neighborhood, those roads, it costs about $6 to $8 million right now. So if you extrapolate that across the city on all the subdivisions and all the arterials and collector roads we have, several hundred millions of dollars of improvements that we need to get done. And so one of those challenges are, for example, the 10 million surplus revenue, we could use that money to fix roads and we'd do 1 or 2 subdivisions and we'd be done. Mm-hmm. So one of the things we've been focusing on is this council is very much committed to focusing on economic development and downtown redevelopment. And we're trying to use those dollars as an investment. How do we use those dollars to attract outside investment into our community? In every shape and form, whether that's people visiting our community who are going to stay in our community and stay in hotels and pay TOT tax revenue and eat at restaurants and pay sales tax revenue, or get gas at our gas stations, pay gas tax revenue, or businesses that want to come and build new buildings and create new jobs for our residents and generate new property tax revenue, right? So many of the things we are doing are about attracting new investment into our community. And those things take time. And so we have to be very patient. Now, on the other side of that equation, we also do things to save money, right? And so, for example, in the last 3.5 years, we have been very fortunate. We did 3 projects. One was an energy efficiency project. One was an electric utility meter totalization project. And those, and I'm trying to remember the other project off the top of my head here. Give me 1 second, I apologize. In street sweeping, we privatized our street sweeping operation. Those 3 projects combined are saving us $1 million a year, okay? And then the third piece of that equation is we try to attract other grant dollars and earmarks. So we've been really fortunate. In the last 3.5 years, we've received $18 million in federal ARPA funds. That's one-time money that we could use for a lot of broad things, and we did. And then we also have achieved or attracted $12 million in federal earmark funds. Those funds could only be used for certain projects. Like the building we're sitting in, for example, received $2.5 million of earmarks. In fact, this building was about an $8 million project. Half of this building was funded with other people's money, not local tax money. And the project we're going to talk about today, Zumwalt Park, is similar. There's a lot of, and I'll get into that later, but there's a lot of different funding aspects of that project, and it can only be used for certain things and had to be used in a certain time frame. So I think that gives you a good outline of sort of where we're at financially. I think the last piece I would share with that is all of the funds we have different restrictions on them. So for example, if you look at it in a fund account, we might have a lot of money sitting in one account that clearly takes care of all of our needs in that account. Like, this is not a great example, I'll say gas tax. We can only use the gas tax revenue related to road projects, right? We cannot use the gas tax revenue to hire more police officers or build a park, right? And vice versa, we might have a park fund. We can only use that park fund to build parks. We can't use it to hire police officers, right? So it's a very complex puzzle of what are the funding sources and what can they be used for.
Right, I understand. I think what maybe some folks are hung up on is that the cities don't quite invest themselves into entertainment type projects, right?
Yep.
And they typically don't invest in entertainment type businesses like what Todd has.
Yep.
So when folks hear that, and then lately they hear that $400,000 was allocated for Spade Entertainment to help put on the shows at the amphitheater and at the park, I think either there's a misunderstanding or it's a novel type concept to them. So tell me more about the philosophy that you see in the economic development side and why you think that the entertainment side is so important moving forward and for the park.
Yeah, great question. And that was the second part of your question. So so I would say that it's not uncommon for cities to invest dollars in projects that bring people into their communities. I'll give you a couple examples just right up the street in Visalia. For example, the city of Visalia invests money in their convention center. They spend about, and I'm going to use rough numbers here, but about $3.1 million a year in terms of putting money into the convention center to attract people to downtown Visalia. That's one of the reasons why downtown Visalia is successful, right? They also put about $700,000 a year into the minor league baseball stadium, right? So you'll see cities do things like put money into, zoos or aquariums or airports or convention centers or minor league baseball stadiums or outdoor amphitheater projects. Many cities will put money into an outdoor amphitheater project as just a gathering space means for the local citizens to come together. And we can certainly use this amphitheater for that sole purpose, right? We could attract just local talent. And it wouldn't cost us much money to do that. We could have just cover bands or regional bands show up and play. And that would be a benefit to our citizens, but that won't attract anyone, right? We're not going to get people from San Francisco and Los Angeles or outside of the state of California to come to Tulare to see a cover band, right? So again, part of the reason why we do that, when we spent the money on Zumwalt Park, first and foremost, we were building a recreational amenity for our citizens, right? So if you look at that park, the majority of the park is grass. We have a brand new splash pad, a brand new playground. We have new bathrooms, and we preserve the Sousa Pavilion from a historic preservation perspective. All that's used by our citizens every day. It's open 7 days a week from dusk to dawn to dusk. But the other thing we did is we built the amphitheater, and we put the concert series in it. And what that does is it not only entertainment for our citizens, but it attracts people to our community, right? And as I mentioned before, when we attract people to our community, and Todd will talk about this a little bit, how many people we've actually had. In fact, the majority of the people that were coming to our concerts are from outside this community, including, I think, 14 states, right? When we attract those people to our community, many of them, especially those from out of state, are staying here. They're staying in hotels, they're visiting their family, they're visiting all the outdoor attractions. They're paying the gas tax and the sales tax and the TOT tax. Those are revenues that are coming into the city to help offset some of these costs. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention, since you brought up the recent article you guys did in the $400,000, it's a very important point. I don't want to lose track of this. That $400,000 is in and of itself is not our local tax dollars. The city was very fortunate to do a naming rights agreement with Adventist Health. We signed a 5-year, $500,000 naming rights agreement. That means every year they contribute $100,000 to the city. The intention of those dollars is to go back into Zumwalt Park to continue to sustain its use. And why did they do it? Those are their marketing dollars. They're trying to market to our local citizenry and the people from the Central Valley to come to this venue to use their services, right? It's the same thing we're doing. We're marketing our venue and our community to people outside so they come here and spend their money here, right? So what that agenda item was asking council, hey, they've already given us $100,000. They're going to give us $400 over the next 4 years. What do we want to do with that money? How should we spend that money? My recommendation to council was we're seeing a gap this year because our ticket sales are lower than we want them to be. Mm-hmm. I think we should use that $400,000 to subsidize those costs. And it's not money to Spade Entertainment. It's money to the contractors. Like, for example, our production company, they're a Tulare-based company. They have to spend, all their money for their staff and their equipment to put on these shows. Somebody's got to cover that cost. Normally, that would come out of ticket sales. Mm-hmm. Until we get this venue fully established, which will take us about 3 years, I said to council, let's use Adventist Health's dollars to cover that cost. Now, in the interim, we're using general fund because those monies come in $25,000 every quarter. We use general fund now to pay the bills, and as those dollars come in, they replace the general fund. They go right back into our savings account. Mm-hmm. Does that answer your question?
That does. I think that makes more sense.
Okay.
I think that must mean that you have a lot of confidence in what Todd can do in bringing the right shows, the right folks together, which leads me to my next question for you, is how exactly do you wrangle these folks into Tulare, not a well-known venue for concerts? So how are you marketing this?
That's a great question. Yeah. So, when Marc first started this project, we were really focused on, when I was talking to Marc, it's like, hey, we have to build a great venue in order to attract, top artists here. Otherwise, they'll go to Fresno and Bakersfield. It's a little tougher to get to Tulare. So to the city of Tulare's credit and Marc's credit, they built a beautiful venue. They listened to us, they listened to production, and continue to do that. And then it was a matter of us going out and marketing the venue. And so one of the biggest things we did a year and a half ago was we go to music conferences, and that's where we showed off the venue to all the management companies throughout the world, over in Nashville and down in Los Angeles. And then if you remember right, at the tail end of last year, we had 3 concerts that we already had booked, and even though construction wasn't done, we were able to perform those concerts and had a great time and had decent crowds. The public kept saying that we weren't going to be able to pull it off, but it was no problem. And then going into this year, so our goal is to have all different genres of music. Obviously, we want to see what works down here. We know country works down here, but what else works? Does jazz work? Does classic rock work? And we're really finding out a lot of our answers, this year. As Marc said, in our marketing, and that's been a big misconception. Some of the comments we've seen are, "Hey, I haven't heard of this," and it's frustrating for us. And like my wife, she handles all the artists, and she goes shopping locally, and she's always talking to people at stores. And it's frustrating, but like media is so interesting nowadays. You have to do so much. It's not the old days of radio where you could throw media where you could throw something on the radio and like sell out a concert, like that. So we do all sorts. In fact, I was making a list last night. We're on KSAE TV. We do things with you guys. You guys are sponsoring one of our big shows, this weekend. We have a partnership with Momentum Broadcasting. We do a lot of digital. We do geoframing, geofencing, display ads, and it's just a mix of stuff, and it's format specific. So like we have a big Latin show at the end of August. We're on Univision TV. We're on 3 different Spanish radio stations. We do heavy social media. And one of the things that we're doing this year is we're attaching promo codes to everything. And so we can track what's working and what's not working. And then that allows me to go back to Marc and say, listen, I'm looking at everything for the year. And in this market, I think this format of advertising doesn't work, or this does. And so I think we need to invest those dollars, in that way. And we have a marketing team staff, and we have a social media staff that does all this, because we do shows in other markets as well.
So sorry, where are you going to go?
Todd, you brought up marketing. Obviously, that's a cost on you. Booking the acts is a cost on you. Can you talk a little bit about the structure of who's responsible for what? Because most of it actually falls on Spade Entertainment.
Yeah.
If you read through the contract.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll have discussions with Marc, and I'll tell him hey, I know these bands are touring this year. These are I think good bands to go after, and let's see what what happens in the market with these bands. I think the important thing is I saw some comments yesterday. It's let's get Lady Gaga or let's get Kid Rock, and it's we can't afford that. I mean, these are $1 million acts. We have to. This venue holds 5,500 people.
The venue's not big enough.
Right. Yeah. and then we always battle on the other side too, because people say, "Oh, your tickets are too expensive." Well, you asked for bigger talent, you got to pay more for that. And that's another discussion I want to have. But so we go after talent that we think, at the end of the day, after we count the money with the bar and with sponsor money and everything, that maybe we can get out breaking even, or maybe we can make a few bucks, and let's see how that format goes. So that's really our focus. And I think you would be surprised at some of the formats that do work. I've had people say, I can't believe you hired that band. They were our biggest pre-sale we've ever done in this market. We sold more tickets than the country show with this hard rock show. So it's just interesting to see the different. And then the other thing is, if you look at Tulare, it's a completely different demographic than Visalia or Fresno. Mm-hmm. And we market a 150-mile radius. And like Marc said, this year, I pulled the stats, I don't have them right in front of me, but I think we're at 18 states and 220 cities. I mean, we're pulling from all over the place. And that just shows how fast the reach has gone already about this venue.
Yeah, and I think I would just add, in terms of the contract, it is true that Spade Entertainment in the contract has the obligations for marketing, they have the obligations for booking all the talent and the production. But I want people to understand that this is not necessarily in the legal sense of the term, but this is a partnership, right? The city built the venue, but we have to work closely with our operator in order for us to have success. And somebody could say, for example, well, the city, it chose to take $400,000 to subsidize or supplement these shows that we have right now. And that's true. The city could have chose not to do that, but I want to play that out for just a minute.
Yeah, because I had a question about that.
Yeah, so let's say the city didn't do that. And again, remember, Todd's revenues are going to come from ticket sales, sales during the show for beverages and food, sponsorships, right? If there's not enough revenue from all of those things, which again, remember, this is year one, show 5, I think now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've always said to council, it's going to take us 3 years to really establish this venue. We're still figuring out, how this thing works here in Tulare. Now, this isn't, I've done 3 venues in my career. Todd's, as he mentioned earlier, probably doing, I don't know, how many venues do you think you've done?
A lot.
Right?
Too many.
Right. So this is not our first gig here doing these things for either of us. And I've only worked with Todd once before. That was in the venue we had in Rockland, right? So, but anyways, let's say Todd doesn't have the revenues to pay for all those bands and everything. Here's what would happen if those bills weren't paid, okay? The first thing is those bands would sue Todd, right? And they would file a claim with the city. Now, the city would probably take that claim and reject it and say, no, we don't have a contract with you. Todd, Spade Entertainment has a contract with you. Well, their attorney would look at the agreement and say, that may be true. However, it's your venue, it's your concert series, your revenue sharing with Todd. We want our bill paid, right? So when we go to court and we'd stand in front of a judge, and I don't know how that would go. I don't know if the judge would say, no, city, we agree with you, or the judge would say, no, we agree with the artist. And let's say they say we agree with the artist. Now the city's not only paying the artist, but we're paying their attorney's fees. That's one. To me, the bigger issue is the second that artist isn't paid by either Todd or by the city, the second that artist isn't paid, well, first of all, let's talk about that artist. You have to pay that artist 50% of the money up front just to book their talent. Okay, so that's 6 months to a year in advance. You give them 50% of the money up front to book them. Then before they show up the day of the show, they want their money before they go on the stage. If you don't pay them that day when they're going to go on the stage, you don't have a concert that night. Okay? The second piece of that, though, is let's just say they were saying, oh, you can pay us a week after the show. Let's just say they said that, right? Which isn't the case. If they don't get paid, how many more bands do you think come to Tulare after that? The word travels very quickly. Here, we're only on show 5 in year 1, and we're getting people from 18 different states through social media, right? How quickly in the music industry word would travel that Tulare doesn't pay their bills, right? So we're trying to avoid all that by using someone else's money, Adventist Health, to cover these bills to make sure we have success this year so that we can continue moving forward with this venue so that by the time we get to year 3, hopefully in year 3, the show's covering their own expenses. Now, even if they're not covering in year 3, then we're in the situation I described a few minutes ago where you have the city of Visalia spending $3.1 million a year or on the convention center or $700,000 a year in baseball. I'm not saying we'd have to spend either of those amounts of money. My hope is that we're going to increase ticket sales and sponsorships, which I'm pretty confident we will. But even if we didn't, we wouldn't be talking about spending $3.1 million. We might be talking about spending $600,000. So we'll have to wait to see how that goes.
Does the city get like a portion of ticket sales?
Yes. So if we were looking at the contract with a strict constructionist viewpoint of the contract, the way that would work is we get 20% of any sponsorship revenue Todd or Spade Entertainment generates, and then we get $1, $2, or $3 per ticket sale, depending on the value of the ticket. Plus, we keep any of the parking revenue. So I will tell you, Todd has nothing to do with the parking. So on the parking revenue, just so you know, we have, and I want to get into parking in a minute because I've heard comments about parking, but we have 4 parking lots that are VIP parking you can pay for. Those 4 parking lots have sold out for some shows, but most shows don't completely sell out because there's a lot of free parking everywhere.
Yeah.
But all we do with that money is we just try to cover our costs. So we have a parking attendant, we have to stripe it, we have to do some other things. So so far to date, we're covering our costs on parking. But we haven't collected money on ticket sales or sponsorships yet because we're putting all of that into the concert series. And I'm going to just mention this, Todd, you may not want me to mention this, but Todd has all the rights in the agreement to 80% of his sponsorship revenue. So he could, by contract, keep all that money for himself. He hasn't kept a penny of that money. He's taken all of that sponsorship and rolled it back into the concert. So just like the city's using $400,000 of Adventist's money, Todd's using $200,000 of what should be his money to subsidize the concert.
Yeah, it's a true partnership.
Yes.
Everybody's putting skin in
Yes.
together. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say from this conversation, kind of working through some of the concepts here, what Todd is tasked with doing is finding the right balance of talent to demographic to cost, because if you would draw a gigantic crowd if you had the money to bring in
Yes.
a Lady Gaga,
Yeah.
for sure, but you don't have the money to do that.
Right.
Not to mention, maybe that's not even this demographic or this
Exactly.
market's taste for that. So when you had asked me kind of, whether people think, what are some misconceptions and how do people think that you come up with some of these talents? I think I genuinely am curious, what is the algorithm you're using to say these bands are good, these bands are bad, besides just cost?
Yeah. So there's platforms that we use as producers where we can map ticket sales throughout the country for a particular artist. Mm-hmm. So once I find out who's touring for the year and everything, then I can look at past data and I can say, oh, okay, they're selling out this much, they're selling out this much. There's things you have to kind of read between the lines, though, because there's a lot of casinos, right? And casinos always claim that they sell out, but they don't, because half their tickets go to just, players and VIP members. And then the other thing that casinos do is they overpay for artists, which hurt people like us.
Of course.
So
they do that because they want people to come.
they want people to come in. I don't know
They know where the margins are. Yeah.
Right. If Mark would let me have gambling machines out there, this would all be solved.
I was like, wrong, Mark.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But it's like I said, down here in Sacramento, and we do a lot of shows up in Sacramento. We kind of know the algorithm. And we have a bigger population to tap into up there. When you look down here, obviously we have a big Hispanic population in this market. Is that the only format that works? No. One of our biggest on sales is a hard rock classic, band that's coming up in a couple of months. I mean, that was one of our biggest on sales. So we truly look at the data and we look at where they're playing, how they're selling out, how many tickets are they selling. And our sweet spot for this venue is really 1,500 to 2,500 people. We can fit 5,500, but the venue looks beautiful at 2,000 people. It really does. And so that's our sweet spot. And if we can get paid attendance up to 2,000 or 2,500, everyone's making money at that point. And as long as we have a good bar and we have good sponsorship and everything, everyone's making a little bit of money. And it's really not that far off. I've seen comments of doom and gloom out there, but it's that close. And when Mark and I talk and we try to solve through any of the issues, we always say, God, this isn't really only our 5th show. Like we're so close. I mean, not a lot of people are going to know about this venue until next year.
Let me add a comment if I can to that. So for somebody watching this, okay, well, how could that be true? Because you're talking about having to subsidize 400,000. Well, I'll give you an example. We just had a country show not too long ago, and I don't want to get I can't get into some of the specifics because some of it's proprietary. Like I can't tell you how much we paid for each band because that they are out in the marketplace negotiating, right? So what they charge with one community may be different than another. Okay, but we recently had a country show. That show alone, just for that one show, was over $200,000 in total cost, right? Now, if we have the right amount of ticket sales and beverage sales that go with the show, then the whole cost's covered. In that case, we didn't. We had to subsidize that show. I don't remember the number, say $50,000, something in that range, right? So when you start looking at that, okay, we have to subsidize this show by 50 and this one by 25. That's how you end up to, we might need, I don't think we're going to spend the full 400, but that's why we said to council, let's put 400 there in case we need to spend that 400.
So would you say, I mean, like when we say like that close, like that can mean a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I understand the variations from show to show but is it closer to we're that close and it's really hard to get it over the finish line, or we're that close and we're dialing it in?
I think it's that close and we're dialing it in. And when you look at the amount of people that still do not know about this venue, which still blows my mind, but especially ones that say, I live 2 streets down and I had no clue. And it's like, all I see is complaints about construction.
You probably don't read the Sun-Gazette. That's probably wrong.
That's right. They don't read the Sun-Gazette. It's just that close. So the show that Mark was talking about was Clint Black. We had over 2,000 people there, but a lot of those were comped tickets. So we donated to the veterans organization. We donated 250 tickets, and we brought a lot of veterans here because my thinking is, and Mark's thinking is, let's get people to the venue, let's get people to experience it. Because if we back up to when I was first talking to businesses in this market about sponsorship, nobody understood what City Council was building here. They didn't really understand it until the stage started to take shape. And then when we started doing walkthroughs with people, they were like, wow, this is a big deal. This is a really big venue for the Valley. And so that's some of the misconception too, is just, I think they're used to doing some little shows in the gazebo or something over here. So it's think bigger. But if we go back to the Clint Black show, if those tickets we donated would have been sold tickets, we're golden on that show. And so I think if we just dial it in and more people know about the venue, they'll come.
What is the breakdown between tickets that you're selling to local residents again and again and again versus bringing people from other parts of the state or from other states? Is it about 50-50? I don't know. You tell me.
That's a great question. I pulled some numbers actually a couple of weeks ago. On average, only 6% of our ticket sales are coming from Tulare, which is crazy. All of our ticket sales are coming from outside the market, Visalia, Fresno, Bakersfield. We have a huge following from Los Angeles, believe it or not. The Bay Area, Stockton, Modesto, all the way up into Nevada, Oregon, Washington, as far as Chicago. It's just particular artists, right? Every artist is different. They're going to look at who's touring and it's like, I know family out in Visalia or Tulare, I'm going to go stay there or go stay at a hotel, whatever. So it's a very small percentage coming from Tulare, and that's good and bad. The good thing is, hey, our marketing's working outside this market, right?
Sure.
We're reaching people in Fresno and everything, and they're coming here. The bad thing is like, why are people in Tulare not coming? Right. And that's something we do need to dial in, because I need that number to be about 25 to 30%.
Got it.
.
So are you looking for bands that also have a fan base that travels well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I
I don't know how much that plays into the decision, but I would think if I were in your position, I would probably have a little bit going on that says like, well, this band kind of fits my market, fits the demographic, and they have a fan base from, I don't know, Minnesota.
Yeah.
That like when these guys go on tour, people buy tickets wherever they are, and also they're visiting California. Like that's another thing that like the fan base enjoys, because Reggie and I, this is a side story, you can edit this out if you want, but Reggie and I had a repairman show up from Texas, like because one of the machines that we have is really important for printing, and the only repair guy that knows how to fix it that we know is in Texas. He travels all over the place, that's fine. But so he took a red eye, came in overnight, showed up, fixed the thing, and I'm kind of like talking with him about it, and we're kind of doing the same thing that you would do anytime equipment fails. You're just like, well, what can I do to prevent this?
Yeah.
What parts do I need? So on and so forth. And I was trying to get him on just like, can you come out regularly to like kind of just service this thing? Because I don't really want to just call you when I need you. And he's just like, yeah, maybe. I was just like, well, a good time for us would be like April or May before we get like really busy in summer. He's like, oh, that'd be great. He's like, I can bring the wife. She enjoys coming out to California. The weather's beautiful. Kids are still in school. You can go anywhere you want. It's a weekday, and there's no crowds. And I was like, right. So I'm thinking partly for you must be if you have a fan base of a band that lives in a cold weather state or a very hot place or a very humid place, coming out to California and the Central Valley is not necessarily all that bad.
It's a good thing, and we do to back up when we're looking at bands. We look at their social media presence. We work with them before we. Okay.
Sure. Sorry, I wasted too much time on my story.
No.
Good story. We need to ask that guy what bands he likes.
Yeah, right.
He's a super nice guy too, and I was just like, right. And I was trying to like, honestly, I know the politics in the state are what they are, but I love this state for some reason.
It's the most beautiful state in the country.
And so like
That's a fact.
I was just telling him, I was just like, I don't know, man. I was like, I think you should leave Texas. I think we can make this happen. The thing that he said, I was like, property taxes are lower here
Than Texas, but
Texas. But
income tax is higher.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gas is
That's
higher.
also what he said. The first thing he said
he was
like,
very concerned about gas.
Yes.
well, he said, well, your gas is real expensive over here. It's like, can't argue there. You're right about that. I was like, but it's the weather's nice.
Yeah. No, it's and let us don't turn it on until you tell us, because we're just chatting here. When I first was recruited to California, I was out of Florida. I was like, because I thought everything in California was like Los Angeles. I'd never been. And he's like, just come out and look.
Right.
And so I came out. I was like, oh my God, because we went through the whole state. I was like, this is the most amazing. And every time I drive through California a lot, I'm like, this is the most amazing state. But like as the city manager, like the legislature,
I'm ready when you guys are.
I'm like, oh
Sure.
my God, it is so hard. It's so difficult.
Yeah, we know.
You know.
But we really appreciate you doing it anyways.
I'm gonna start recording you again.
Okay, you're good.
We were with Todd, and you were about to say something.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second.
Are you getting our voices?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All the good stuff. Okay. You guys are. We're good.
So yeah, so one of the things we look at when we're talking to a band, so say we see a band, hey, we're interested in this band. The biggest thing about Tulare is we're trying to do a lot of tour stops, right? So Tulare is a perfect tour stop. So a band can go play in LA, like the band we just had, Toad the Wet Sprocket and Sixpence None the Richer. You know, they played in LA, they come to Tulare, they go to Sacramento, they go to Reno, and then they just hopscotch across the country. But we look at their social media presence. So, and where are their followers coming from? And we look really hard at that, as a matter of fact. And sometimes that's been a deal killer for us, where we just say, they're just not big enough in California, or, you know, you're playing way too close, you know, to Tulare or to Sacramento, where we do shows as well. So we look at all that. We also look at, you know, the bands love to play for Spade Entertainment because we really, really take care of them. And I think you and I have talked about that on your podcast before, where, you know, my wife handles all the artists when they're here and their hospitality and everything, and we just really take care of them. We know how hard it is to be on the road, and so they'll pretty much do anything for us, and that means a lot because we ask them to do videos for us. Personal videos. Hey, you know, this is Clint Black, we're going to be in Tulare, you know, and we can't wait to rock out down there, you know, whatever. So it's what they're willing to do for us as well.
Backstage, signing merchandise. I mean, that's one of the things I love about this venue that I'm learning quickly is the intimacy of it. Like at the Clint Black show is a perfect example. Here's a young boy, his first concert. He's old school country. His favorite performer is Clint Black. He's like, can I get an autograph, right? His mom hands me a boot and says, could Clint Black sign it? I hand it to Todd, and he come back a few minutes later with a signature. It's like, you're not getting that if you go to the Golden One Center.
Right. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying everybody shows up with their boots. I'm just saying
don't show up with your boots.
The level of intimacy and how close you can get, and the fact that you can, you know, depending on the ticket, you can get backstage and the meet and greets. And it's like, it's a whole different level of experience that we're trying to create here.
Well, even the crowd,
Brian, interview.
Okay, go ahead.
When I was at the Clay Walker concert, people were just bringing things to him on stage, like just tossing it onto the stage, and he was signing all of it.
Yeah,
I mean, he took like a long musical interlude. The band was playing. He's like, yeah, here you go.
Yes.
I remember Mark
amazing.
Mark actually came backstage. He's like, Todd, I think Clay's getting overwhelmed. I go, he likes to do it, so let him do it.
Yeah, I was worried about that, but
he kind of egged it on a little bit.
Yeah.
What was Clay's comment after the show?
Yeah, so it's really funny. That was a crazy show because that was our first show, and of course construction wasn't done, so we had a lot of little things going on. And I didn't even talk to Clay like the entire night until the very end. And his manager texted me and said, Todd, Clay wants to see you backstage. And I was like, oh no, what went wrong? And I go back there, and Clay was signing stuff in his true spirit, you know, to everyone. And he goes, Todd. And I said, yes. And he gets up and he puts his arm around me. He said, this is the best venue he's played in years and the best in the Valley. And he couldn't wait for construction to be done. He goes, I never want to play another place down in this area except for right here. Wow. And of course, that was before the venue was done. We had the stage and everything. And that means a lot because we work really, really hard to make the ticket holder happy and make the artist happy is our goal. And of course, the city.
You bring up a great point. Is everything done? I know people often, the public doesn't often understand. Like you build something and oftentimes you open it, but it's not quite done yet.
Yeah.
Are we there yet? And how much more do we have if we're not?
So we're very close. I mean, we're done in the sense that it's passed the certificate of occupancy inspection, so it's open to the public, right? There's like cosmetic things. I'll just give you a few of them. For example, originally we planned to have an ice machine backstage. We have a big cooler backstage, but we were going to have an ice machine, and somehow that got left off the plans. So we're in the process of getting the ice machine now. It should be here in another couple of weeks or whatever. But that doesn't affect the shows. It doesn't affect the performances for the audience. It affects him because now, until we have the ice machine, he has an extra cost. He has to pay $1,500 every show for ice delivery, right? So that'll help reduce that cost. There's other little things that we're working on, like there's an old clock tower that was in the park that we took out. Where we were going to put it originally, after we got the park open, looked at it, doesn't fit there. So I don't know if you've noticed out there's this big circular like bench area in the middle of the park. That was going to, originally there was a big oak tree that was going to go around. We had to take the oak tree down. It started dying during construction.
That's sacrilege if I tell you.
Believe me, I didn't want it. That was a beautiful
That was a
tree.
nice
It was
tree.
going to be shade. It was perfect. We built the whole design around it, and then we had to take it down. So what's going to go there in its place is we're going to put that clock tower there, and we're going to put a big array of tiered flowers all around it. So every time you walk in the park, there'll be new flowers. And then at Christmas time, we take those flowers out and we put up a 30-foot commercial Christmas tree. That's our new tree lighting ceremony will be in Zumwalt Park. So
You're not
it's
going to shut down streets for it anymore? That's nice.
well, no. We'll still have streets shut down for like the Christmas parade stuff, but
Yeah.
so there's little details like that we're still working on, and then as we have shows, if we see there's a problem something here, like we have to add some outlets in a couple places. One of the problems we didn't think about, we thought about a lot of things when we designed it. We didn't think about this. All the pedestrian lighting in the park, it goes on and off, which is great. But when you have the concert going, it has to be off.
Yeah, right.
Which means back at the playground and splash pad, it's not on. So we're rewiring that so that we can shut off the lights by the front of the stage and keep the lights on by the splash pad and playground. So little things like that we're working on.
Okay. Well, I think that's all that I have for you guys.
Oh.
Unless there's something else that you wanted to touch
I have a
on.
lot more I want to talk
Well,
about.
I'm sure you do.
How are we doing on time? Well, Todd, I hope I don't speak out of turn here.
No, go ahead.
But I really want this to be as transparent and honest and open as possible. I've heard some folks say, well, how do I want to say this? There's always a question about how much is this guy making? Like, how much is the operator making?
Oh, yeah. You want to share? I'm just kidding.
I'm going to share. I'm going to share because it's important. The reason why Todd, I think, entered into an agreement, the reason why we entered into the agreement the way we did is because we wanted to push more of the risk as possible to the operator, right? You cover the cost, you cover everything, you're operating this thing, you pay the bills. We're not there yet. We've already gone through that. But our goal within the next 3 years is to try to get there as much as we possibly can. The reason why he did, most of Todd's, in fact, I think this is the only deal that Todd has. I'll let him answer that if I'm wrong, but most, if not all, of Todd's contracts are not at risk. He gets paid a flat fee. You pay him, and this is what he makes to do the show. So he's never at risk. He knows going into the show what his costs are going to be and how much money he's going to make, and he makes money on the show. This is different. This contract, he did it this way because for a couple of reasons. One is this is what we negotiated, and I wanted to put more of the risk on him. But two, he also has a lot of faith in this venue, and he sees potentially more upside long term, right? I'm grateful that Todd is taking those sponsorship dollars and not keeping them and putting it back into the venue because he believes in the venue. And there's a lot of shows that they'll put on, they'll do charity shows where they're not making a dime. We have one coming up at Christmas time that he's getting ready to put on. But anyways, Todd currently, his goal is to generate at a minimum $15,000 to $20,000 gross revenue per show for his company. Out of that, he takes out all his expenses. Okay, he hasn't come near that for any one of these shows this year. He takes a $5,000 operator fee out of every show. Out of that, he has to pay his expenses. So he's here for half a week for every show, his hotels and food and travel and gas and any of his overhead. He also gets 75% of the net proceeds from beverage sales. Okay. There are usually net proceeds, but it varies dramatically, and it will continue to vary until we stabilize this venue and we can kind of know what talent, what they bring, and where that's at. So he hasn't come close to $15,000 for any one of the show. And I will tell you that if you look at all of the time he has spent working on this thing, because there's many hours way beyond each of these shows, my guess is him and Claudia are probably making minimum wage. Now, are there a lot of operators that would do that? No, there's not. And so I'm grateful to Todd and Claudia for that. The city organization is, and our hope is that that won't have to continue, right? But we'll see. I mean, at some point, if this doesn't turn around and get to the place, I shouldn't say turn around, because I think we're actually doing better from every perspective, in my opinion, and I'm going to talk about a couple more of those in a second here. The only two that I think The ticket sales is the biggest one. That's a shocker. We're lower on ticket sales than I thought we would be. And sponsorship revenue is pretty good, but I think we can still do better. And I think we will over time as people come out and see it, they'll want to be involved in it, right? So that's, I think I wanted to mention that piece. A couple of other pieces. I have heard, before we ever started this venue, I heard people say there's no parking. It's really important that we talk about it. Parking is absolutely factually not an issue. Now, I'm not saying that every person will be satisfied. There may be somebody who wants to, I will tell you, for every show, well, let me say it to you this way. There are we've identified, we have a study. I can give you the study. There are 4,000 parking spaces north and west of the venue. And we haven't calculated the ones south and east, but I'm going to tell you, I think there's about at least 4,000 south and east, probably a little bit more than that. These are either within city-owned public parking lots, on-street labeled parking spaces, or the private parking lots that we rent for the shows, okay? So we have 4,000 that are free. If you get to the show early, you can park literally on the street right outside the venue and walk to, you can't get any closer. I can't let you park in the venue. So that's the closest you can get. If you don't want to park or get there early, you can show up 5 minutes before the show using one of the share ride services like Lyft or Uber and park right outside this door, which is literally right across, not park, but get dropped right off of here. And you can walk, 50 feet to the front door. So parking is absolutely not a problem. Now, I hear people say parking is, so because we hear people say that, we're still working to add more parking. We're negotiating right now on another piece of property that's privately owned that we would put a gravel parking lot in, about 60 spaces. I don't think we have to do that, but we're doing it because we want to create an environment where we can check that off their list, and I don't have to hear people say there's no parking, right? Come to the event, you'll see there's plenty of parking.
I have a solution for those people, by the way.
What?
Just park halfway or park in front of Tap Yard, and then when you leave the venue afterwards,
Yes.
go to Tap
Yes.
Yard,
Yes.
support a local business.
And that's what smart people are doing.
Right there waiting.
Yes, actually, that's brilliant.
Or the wine bar that's over
Yes.
there,
Wine bar,
or
you're
any
right. I totally
restaurant.
forgot about the
Yeah.
wine bar.
Yes, like if you talk to those business owners, they will tell you that this venue has been doing exactly what we wanted it to do.
Yeah.
This is a key downtown redevelopment effort. That's one thing I didn't say in the beginning. I've done a lot of downtown redevelopment work. In fact, if I would say in my expertise, if there's two areas, it's economic development and downtown redevelopment. I've done it before. In fact, nothing that I've brought to this city, I haven't done at least once. This is the third venue I've done, okay? So I know from experience what I'm talking about. Not only am I trained in it, but I know from experience. So the keys to downtown redevelopment is very simple. It's not rocket science. There's 5 things. You have to have people living downtown, working downtown, eating downtown, shopping downtown, and entertaining and recreating downtown. We're working on all 5 of those. This Zumwalt Park is only one move in multiple moves we're making to redevelop downtown. This is the primary entertainment recreation venue, right? But we've invested in 4 businesses downtown. That's why the Tap Yard's there. That's why the wine bar's there, right? Because we took a portion of our ARPA dollars. Remember I told you, we got 18 million in free money and 12 million, 30 million in free money. So we put that money into some of these types of things. So those projects, now they had to spend most of their money. We put a small piece of money into that, right? But those projects are successful in part because we put money into them and because people are coming to the venue. They're not just coming to the venue for the concert, they're coming before for dinner or after for, beverages and things. And so that I think is a really important piece. I want to mention just a couple other pieces if you have some time.
Yeah. Real quick, there's
yes.
another piece that we're sitting at.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a perfect example. Yes, half of this building was paid for with other people's money, right? And this is going to create small businesses. Those small businesses are going to be shopping downtown and eating lunch downtown. And the goal is to take these small businesses and grow them into bigger businesses, right?
Right.
And we
This
have
is the Tulare Business
Innovation Zone. Yep, T-Biz.
Yeah,
Yep.
essentially an incubator.
It's a business incubator. It opened yesterday.
Right.
Yep.
And I just want to comment before Mark goes to the next subject is, Mark's vision was very well explained to myself and my wife. And so with that vision in mind, it's all about the small businesses. It's all about the redevelopment. I'm constantly talking to the businesses. How busy were you? Tap Yard, we do cross promotions with each other. How can I help you? And they're in turn, how can we help you? And I've never seen a community, a business community that stepped up like this community. It was one of my biggest fears is where are we going to get sponsor dollars? Is this community going to step up? And they have stepped up in a huge way. And like Mark said, the potential's even bigger. But it's exciting to talk to Adrian and at Tap Yard, and he's like, we don't even have enough employees to handle people before and after the shows. And same with the wine bar and other locations. So that's important to us.
You also have a bunch of nonprofit, right? You have nonprofits involved, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So the bar, for instance, is ran by TDES, which is the Portuguese Hall. So we met with them, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and we said, hey, come on this journey with us. Let's do it. And we love working with them. They do all the bars out at the Ag Center. And they just come in and they own it, so they get 20% of the proceeds, and then I pay all their expenses and everything. And so that's helping them. And then anything else we can do, we did a couple of things at the Clint Black show. There was a local Tularian, she has cancer, and she actually has her surgery next week. And within 3 days, we found out about it, and we pulled the trigger. And her dream was to be on stage. Hey, you're on stage. You're on stage with Momentum Broadcasting. This is your dream. We're here to raise money for you. We had another business that gave us a bunch of koozies, and we did donations on those. And we were able to raise thousands of dollars that night for her medical bills. And then that same night, I got a call from George Herrera, local resident. And he goes, hey, I have a photo booth. It's not being used. Can I bring it for donations for the Little League team? I'm like, yeah, bring it on over. End of the night, I checked in, and he's like, we made a killing. This is great, And we love stuff like that and the stories like that. So anytime we can involve a nonprofit to help them make some money. I mean, right now I'm a nonprofit, but so I'd like to make a little too. But anything we can do to help the community and get them to the venue is key for us.
Does being a nonprofit have any bearing on kind of how this partnership works between you and the city?
He's a nonprofit only by virtue they're not making any money.
Yeah.
He's a nonprofit company.
Yeah. So
he's just operating.
Yes.
I'm just operating like one right now.
You must be in print media.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason why we have to have a nonprofit for the bar is because that's the legality of it with the ABC, right? But you're always concerned about what type of nonprofit you're going to have run your bar. And, it's like you can't just have the local softball team and, you have to have professional bartenders at a size venue like this. Right. If it's a small show and you have a few hundred people, you can have the local, team or whatever help out. But these guys know what they're doing and we can get through it.
Gotcha.
A couple other things I'd like to mention. One is, I've heard and seen a lot of misinformation, I don't think it's intentional. I think it's just misunderstanding. People don't have all the facts about some of the expenses of things. So I saw one the other day that said something about the city spent $1 million on porta potties, and that's not accurate. I'll tell you exactly what we did.
That'd be a lot of porta potties.
Yeah. That'd be a lot of porta
And it'd
potties.
have to be super luxury.
Yeah, super.
That's in the bathroom now.
Like Mariah Carey luxury.
Yeah, I don't even think we spent $1 million on the bathroom we built. But anyways, so we made a decision. So the venue as it's designed is designed to support about 1,000 people with the bathrooms we have, right? Mm-hmm, we've got the 6 bathrooms in the building, and then there's VIP bathrooms that people can use. But as soon as we get over that number, we need more bathrooms. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't want to build a venue that has all these bathrooms out there all the time, right? So we bring in bathrooms. Now, we could rent porta potties, and we did that for the construction time. It's not expensive to rent the plastic porta potties that everybody hates, right? Nobody wants to use those. It is very expensive to rent the modular bathrooms that come on the trailer that are nicest. They're air conditioned. Okay, yeah. It's very expensive. I don't remember the exact number, but it's probably like $7,000 a show or something like that. It's a lot of money. So now imagine 10 shows. You're $70,000 for the year just to rent them, right? So we made the decision to buy some. We spent $125,000. I'll get you the exact number if you need it. It was about $125,000. We bought 2 modular bathrooms. We bought it for 2 reasons. Well, 3 reasons. One, because we save money long term by owning them instead of renting them.
Yeah.
2, we needed them for the venue, and they're nicer than those porta potties, right? And 3, this is the other big reason. Since I've been here, I can't tell you how many times people have complained to me that when we have events downtown, there's nowhere for people to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
They have to go into the businesses, and the businesses don't always like it because people are coming in and they're making a mess and they're not buying anything. Okay, those bathrooms we're going to use for all downtown events. We just wheel them out, and now we have bathrooms that people can use. When people put on special events, it depends on the event. If it's a co-sponsored event with the city, we won't charge for use of the bathrooms. If it's not a city-sponsored event, you'll have to have bathrooms, and now you don't have to rent ours, you can rent someone else's, but we will offer them a discounted price to rent our bathrooms, so we'll be recouping money over time on those bathrooms.
I think that a lot of folks, I think that anybody who's a business owner or works in operations on a broad scale understands exactly what you're saying. I think I think they're two. There's not even a Venn diagram of the people who leave comments on social media and the people who understand these things on a very basic level. Because when you told me 10 shows, $7,000 per show, $70,000 in a year, you're looking at Todd's endeavor for at least the next 4 years, dialing it in.
Yeah.
You are going to spend $125,000 on 2 of these.
Yes.
So it's not even 2 years of shows.
Yes.
Like you can waste
Yes.
so much money
Yes.
over 2 years, and chances are to rent them is going to be more expensive year over year.
Yes.
So like not only are you getting a greater than 2 year deal, but you're also getting the control of where you want
Yes.
to deploy them
Yes.
and when.
Yes.
And so I think that any business owner or anybody in operations looks at that and says, absolutely makes sense. That's a money decision as long as you have the capital to put it forward. The problem is not many people are in business, and not many people work in finance in this way for the city or any of these things.
Yes.
And so therefore they look, for a lot of folks, 125 grand
Yes.
is a lot of money.
Absolutely
That's more
it
than
is.
their yearly salary.
Absolutely.
And it's like, but they also spend that time that they do have putting out their thoughts half-cocked on social media, and that catches more people's attention than it does whenever you actually understand the numbers.
Yeah. Well,
And that's just important to know.
Yeah.
And the principle applies to your household budget too.
Yes.
Right? Like if, for instance, if you have to rent a generator all the time because you're doing like these big construction projects at your house,
Right.
It would probably be cheaper to buy a generator.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now you have it for, not forever, but for its useful life.
Yeah, if you have a lot of property and you have to, move dirt a lot, it's probably better to buy the backhoe than rent the backhoe over and over and over again.
Yes. Yes.
Well, you want to do events properly, right? So there's nothing worse than someone coming to a show or another event downtown or whatever, and there's no place to go to the bathroom, or streets aren't blocked off right, or you have warm beer, or whatever.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it proper, then you're really going to get the feedback, right? And so it's about the ticket holder experience. Mark was kind of laughing. I remember during construction because he was like, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm walking through as the ticket holder. Like I want to make sure that the ticket holder's experience is good." And hey, we've dropped the ball on things before, and we've missed things as current.
Right there.
Yep.
Ticket holder experience.
Yeah, Mark was walking through as the customer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just for us, it's all about, the customer experience. And then the other level of that is making sure we're delivering on what we've promised our sponsors, which are very important to us because, especially, as we grow this venue, their money's important, right? It allows us to get the artist and pay the bills and everything. So I encourage anybody that has seen positive stuff and negative stuff on social media to come to the venue. I think that 80% of any negative comments, I think it's coming from people that have never been to this venue.
Yeah.
And we want people to come. And this weekend's a perfect opportunity actually to come because courtesy of the Sun-Gazette, you could actually get free tickets to this show this weekend. And we want people to have the experience. And we do want to hear from people. If you had a bad experience or a good experience, we want to hear about it. And because if there's anything that we're doing that's not correct, we definitely want to fix that.
Well, I took my dad to Toe the West Rocket
Oh,
last
cool.
time, and I texted you like right after. I was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, this is the first concert I went to here. Thought it was great. My dad wanted to go. It was like the beer line was fast. The seating was great.
Yeah.
Because we sat like in GA, like the first like kind of stands there, and then honestly, had I not gone, I probably wouldn't have understood like how easy of an experience that it was. But like that's what I'm going to tell people moving forward.
Yeah.
Too. Like I'm not going to leave a comment online because that's just not who I am. But like I was happy to text you and let you know how it went.
Yeah, and that was awesome. We thrive off of that. If we
Yeah.
can hear that at the end of the night, it's all good for us.
Have you guys thought about selling branded low back chairs? Because honestly, I didn't know what a low back chair was. So
Well-
I thought you meant like the high rock.
Yeah.
So I brought my regular camping chair, and they're like, hey, "You can't have
No.
it." I'm like,
Yeah.
Is this not a low back chair? They're like,
No.
No, yeah.
Lower.
Yeah, so it's funny. Some of the policies that we had down here didn't go over too well. And it's the same policies that we have at some of our venues up in Sacramento. And I think it's just a little easier up there because people are used to it, right? So the low back chair was a tough thing for this community to take. And we do have chairs, by the way. Land O'Lakes has purchased a lot of chairs, and we rent them out, and half the money actually goes to a charity of Land O'Lakes' choice.
"Oh, I didn't know."
So we have about 350 chairs, I think, and they have the Land O'Lakes logo and the Spade logo. And who knows, maybe we'll sell them next year. We'll work with Marc on that with the city. But we did change our chair policy. So I talked to Marc and I said, I think this is, he and I talked through it. And the way that it works now is you have your first tier of VIP 220 chairs up front where you have a seat and you're right up front.
And they're lowered.
No, those are tall chairs.
Those are regular
Oh,
chairs.
You sit just
No,
like
I mean,
we are.
but that's below. The,
Oh, they're
Yes,
lower.
that's a
yes.
sunken area, yes.
And then the next level is the grass level, and now you can have your low back chair, not high back chair, low back chair, blanket or towel or whatever, just sit on the grass.
Yeah.
And then the next level, you can have all size chairs, right? So you can have a regular camping chair, whatever, and then you go right into our VIP areas, and then you can flank on each side where we have high bar tables, and you can
In any
bring
chair.
your-
In any chair in
Any
those
chair.
other areas.
So we think what we saw from Toad the Wet Sprocket is that worked, and we had no complaints. So we fixed it. we heard the community, and we said, hey, no problem. Like, let's adjust it. And
It
now,
wasn't a problem beyond my own ignorance. I was perfectly fine if I would have had one of those chairs.
Right.
No, but we got complaints.
And
Yeah.
sitting on the
Yeah.
grass was lovely. Like,
Yeah.
it'd been a while since I just like, I'm just gonna sit on the grass.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like Todd, want to listen. I really appreciate the people who have been part of this effort. There's a lot of volunteers and nonprofits, city council, our staff. You have no idea how many staff members have worked a ton of hours on, and they're still working on making sure everything. Like right now, but Todd has his people out there. We have our people doing things. It's like there's a lot of work that goes into every one of these shows, and so I'm extremely grateful to everyone and our citizens who come and buy tickets. I'm grateful to our citizens who are commenting on social media. I truly am. The only time that I get frustrated is when people are sharing information that's absolutely factually incorrect. Like, they have the right to do that. They have the right to their opinion. They don't have to believe what I'm saying. I'm happy at any time. If somebody wants to sit down with me, I will meet with anyone at any time. 8 o'clock at night on a Saturday, 6 a.m. on a Sunday. I don't care. I will be happy to sit down with anyone, a group. I will show you our financials. I will produce the facts that show you. Everything I said here today, I can back up with actual documented facts. There may be other questions people have about the financials that I didn't address. I'm happy to address all those. I wish they would do that with me rather than just go on social media and say, I heard this, or Todd's making a killing on these shows, or like those. That's not factually correct. That's factually incorrect. I've also, seen people say things that, can frustrate me, like, well, there's kickbacks going on. And if people had any idea about how much time that people are dedicating to making these things work for the benefit of this community, they would understand why I'm insulted when I hear those things.
Paul and I talk a lot about this issue. There are many people online who are misinformed. That's not a bad thing. They're sometimes they're just posing a question. Maybe again, it would have been better to go to the source. But
misinformed is a bad thing. Underinformed is
Yes.
a thing. It happens.
But there are also people who are actively disinforming
Yeah.
online. People
Yeah.
who are
That happens.
spreading false information. And that's really the harder thing because it's always, like conspiracy theories, shadowy,
Yeah.
things that people
Yeah.
like boogeymans.
Yeah.
It's like, where did you get that? And of course, there's no answer to that because it doesn't really exist. That's the harder thing for me dealing with social media is people who are actively disinforming. Like they are just trying to create some controversy where there really isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I listen. You don't. Let's say that people accept the facts that I've shared today. That doesn't mean they have to agree with what I've said, right?
Sure.
And they may not agree. We have 4 council members that voted in favor of using the $400,000 of Adventist's money, someone else's money, to subsidize these shows. We had 1 council member that did not. I don't think everybody has to agree with everyone all the time, right? People can disagree about things, but that's why we have had, just before we even started construction on this project, we had a dozen public meetings to talk about this. We had 3 different layouts for the design. Like, here's how much it's going to cost. Like, we delivered a project on budget. It came within how much we said we would spend. And remember, I didn't talk about that. It was about a $15 million project in total. We had $5 million in free federal ARPA funds. That meant all the taxpayers from around the country paid for that. We had $5 million in development impact fees. Those fees are park fees. They could only be spent on a park, and they can't be spent on maintenance. You couldn't go into one of our existing parks and replace a play structure with it. It had to be on a new park or a capacity building function, right? So we took this park and completely changed it, right? So $5 million of park fees. And by the way, we had to spend those fees when we spent them, because when a developer pays you impact fees, you have 5 years to obligate those funds towards a project. If you don't, you have to give them back to the developer. We had $7.5 million in fees. $5 million of those fees were due to be given back. So it was time to spend. We spent them on this project. We spent them on the dog park. Okay, and then we had $5 million of our local taxpayer general fund surplus reserve dollars that we spent on this project. Right. So we got a $15 million project for $5 million. Right. But people don't know those facts, and I don't blame them. They don't live in this job. They don't come to see. They don't come, to the 12 meetings we had since we decided to do this construction project. We've probably had 30 public meetings where we've talked about this project, and we're going to have a lot more, right? So I encourage folks to come out, come meet with me, come to a council meeting. Let's talk about this. If there's a question you have about the finances or something that I didn't address, sit down with me. We'll go over all of those things. And if you don't, at the end of the day, if you don't agree, that's okay. It's okay. It's healthy for a community to have different opinions and not everybody agree. But when we have those discussions, we might have a chance of actually forming a better solution that more people can agree with. We can get a shared understanding. We say, yes, we can do this. Like that. That's what our goal is here. So there's no boogeyman. We're not trying to hide anything. We're trying to be as transparent. It's just hard to get information out when you have people that live 2 blocks away and they didn't know about the project. I don't know how to solve all those problems. I just know we have to keep talking about it, which is why I'm so grateful you guys asked or accepted, our discussion to come here and talk about this, because this is the only way we can get more people to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think on the social media front, when people work really, really hard on a project and they get negative comments from misinformation or underinformation, that's hard not to take personal. And I do, like, my social media director tells me to stay off social media because I do take it personal. But I know some recently I've answered a few things, and my wife's just like, step away. But it's hard. And, to Mark's point, so many people, so many hours, so much travel, it's been fun to a standpoint of seeing a project come to life. And then for people that don't know or haven't been to a show, I think one of the comments was, why don't you guys have a bar there and make money off the bar? We have that. Mm-hmm. It's like, come to a show and see what we have. Like, we know what we're doing. We know the process. We've done this for years. Doesn't mean we don't mess up, because we do. But we know how to get as much as we can out of a venue. And it's just going to take a little time to grow, and it'll get there.
And I would encourage the folks, if you don't want to come to a concert, again, we have a concert this Saturday night. If you use the right promo code from the Sun-Gazette, you can get in free. And I highly encourage that. I also encourage families to bring their children. Mm-hmm. My office sits right outside the splash pad. From about 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. at night, every day of the week, that thing is, I don't want to say it's filled, but there's always somebody in it. And normally there's about 10 people in it. Bring a family to the concert. It's completely fenced in area, so it's safe and secure. We have police there. He has security there. You can come in. Your kids can get in the splash pad in the playground and exhaust themselves. You won't have to pay a babysitter. And you can enjoy the show and maybe get some food and a beverage. You can feed your whole family there if you wanted to. By the time the night's over, you're all going to be exhausted and have a great, very affordable, maybe free event. And that's why we did this thing, is to help our citizens and then to attract others to the community. So please come out. We have free yoga every Wednesday in the morning. We've been averaging 30 to 40 people every Wednesday morning of yoga. We have a free CrossFit class every Tuesday. From yoga's Wednesdays 7 to 8 a.m. CrossFit is Tuesdays 7 to 8 a.m. We had 18 people there for this week we had our first show. We're getting ready. You're going to like this. We're going to have line dancing classes out there in the evenings. We haven't set that date yet. So free, come out and do line dancing. And then we also are going to have soon, I don't have the date yet, but I think it'll be September, October timeframe. We're going to do Tai Chi with chai tea
Okay.
in the park. Okay. So we're trying to, I'm thinking, each one of these is bringing a different segment of our community, right?
Yeah.
It's really cute. In the morning at yoga, I've seen a few moms bring their kids, and I know I'm watching the kids, and I know these kids are like, I don't want to go to yoga, and the mom's like, if you go to yoga, you can go to the splash pad after, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So this is a great thing. This venue is a great project for this community. Just people, instead of, if you haven't been out here, if you're complaining, please come to the venue. And after you come to the venue and you've talked to Todd and you've talked to me and we don't address your concerns or your problems, then by all means complain.
Yeah, absolutely. And to address one thing, piggyback on that, is ticket sale prices. I've seen a lot of people say, $45 for a GA ticket? That's insane. And I think that maybe just people are misinformed on ticket prices out there. I have a friend that just called me yesterday and he's like, dude, I want to go see Def Leppard in Sacramento. Can you get free tickets? And I go, well, how much are the tickets? He goes, $980. And I was just
goodness.
like, and that's what ticket prices are. And so our goal is always, when we're building out a band, once we find out expenses and band costs, that's the next thing we do, is we feed in based on our head of how many people we think this band should pull. That's where we develop the prices. When you buy a $40 GA ticket, there's just a couple of dollar fee on top of that. It's not a $15 Ticketmaster fee and then a $20 facility fee and all that. And then we have VIP experiences, that range anywhere from $110 to $150. And that experience, you get a server that brings you drinks, you get seats, you be up front or side stage for a really unique VIP experience. Some have meet and greets. So our ticket prices are extremely low compared. I challenge anyone to find a less expensive ticket.
I mean, you get what you pay for, right? I mean, that hasn't changed at any iteration of inflation or the economy.
Yep.
Yeah.
If it's if it is free, I promise you somebody is subsidizing it,
Yes.
like the Sun-Gazette is
Yes.
doing tomorrow. I was like, but other than that, if you wanted a free concert, if they want to go see Def Leppard for free.
Yeah.
Chances are they ain't gonna be there.
No, it's not gonna be
It's just not
there.
the way this works.
Yeah.
Let's say you're going to go to a nice local restaurant, not a fast food, but like a sit down, have an experience with your family or your wife. That's going to be somewhere between $100 and $300.
Easily.
For sure.
Yeah,
For a family.
easily.
Sure.
Or go to the
Oh,
water
for sure.
park.
Yeah.
We took our grandkids to Sunsplash, a couple of weeks ago. I think we spent $300 at the end of the day. By the time you buy tickets and you go mini golfing and you eat and then you go home, it's like, wow.
Go to the movie theater.
Yeah, go to the movie theater.
Right? I mean, maybe you get a discount ticket for sure, but you go to the movie theater and you get some popcorn and a drink, you're spending a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
It is what it is.
You're already at 40 for two people.
For sure.
To go to the movies
Yes.
and then get something to eat and something to drink.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now this is and I love the movie theaters. I love going
Me
to the
too.
movie.
Galaxy's great.
But
Yeah.
this going to a live performance. We did 3 shows last year, and I think we've done 5 so far this year.
Yeah.
Right? So 8 shows. Of the 8 bands, I think 3 of them are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Is that right?
Yeah, we had Lou Graham, that obviously is, you know, in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We had some people right on the edge. I know Clay Walker's, you know, done a ton of stuff. A lot of Grammy Award winners. I think our show, Dawkins and George Lynch, I think Dawkins like close to Hall of Fame, you know, or you know, really close. But yeah, I mean, the quality of talent. I think I saw a comment yesterday from someone that says all these bands play in bars. No, bars can't afford these bands. it's like
They're trying
you know,
out new material, maybe.
yeah, maybe if they're trying
But
out
they're not.
new
credit
material.
to you, this might be one of the smallest venues they play. So the fact that they're willing
It
to
could
come
be.
here means
Yeah.
they like the venue and the experience so much.
Absolutely, yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, we you know, we just put some offers in on a few bands for next year that we can't talk about right now. But some of these bands are big bands, you know, and we're just trying to route them and tour them, so they're on tour buses, and they're excited. You know, we have a venue video actually that is posted on social. Freddie from Galaxy Theaters actually does the narrative on it. And it's a beautiful venue. It shows, or a video, it shows off the venue from a ticket holder standpoint to an artist standpoint. And that's what we share with the artist, so.
Well, I think we'll leave it at that. Everybody, thank you for joining us. This has been a conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All
Thanks,
right.
you guys.